Sorry that cut out on the end there. It's because my Bandicam wasn't registered. As you'll notice, it's now registered. What was I saying? I was talking about how the players up here in these AML and AMR positions, it's really important for them to be up there. But the more I think about it, I think it could work both ways. Really, it really depends on the quality of the player you've got, and maybe I was actually wrong, because if you're thinking about space, these players on the wings are going to need to attack the space behind the opposition defensive line, and typically they're going to be starting from around the MR position anyway, even if they're not even if they're not, what am I trying to say? They're going to start down there when we don't have the ball, basically, and the opposition is in our half attacking us. They're going to start down here ready to receive the ball. So maybe it doesn't matter too much, except that in these positions allow you to define better what you want your players to do. So inside forward, you can't do that on ML, and that is very important. Being able to cut inside there with an inside forward or a Raumdeuter. I find this Raumdeuter doesn't really work for me. I don't know how to get it to work, but we'll work on that another time. Moving on anyway from that, you notice as well I've put Dimitri Mitchell on the bench and Marcus Rashford for their pace, purely for their pace, because these are the only players we've got at Man United, basically, for this sort of purpose. Let's talk about the roles and duties. Starting at the back, when you're playing counter-attacking football, your goalkeeper is pretty much going to be stuck on his line. He's not going to be sweeping up through balls so much, and he's going to just stay on his line, catch crosses, and deal with a lot of crosses, basically, because when you're camped in your box, basically you're going to be dealing with crosses, and it's important for having a goalkeeper that can catch crosses, that's got good aerial reach and command of area. And I don't know how jumping reach factors into it, but I'm sure it's a thing. And David De Gea, he has decent ability here. It's not his best thing. Obviously, shot stopping is his thing, and that's another thing you need for your goalkeeper. You need a top quality shot stopper for your league, because your goalkeeper is going to be receiving a lot of shots, and he needs to deal with them. And as we know, that David De Gea is one of the best shot stoppers in the world. So very happy with the goalkeeper. But what about his role? Sweeper keeper. This is not suitable for counter-attacking football. I mean, it says here, with a support duty, he'll look to play counter-attacking passes. Do I really want my goalkeeper to initiate counter-attacking moves? Maybe if I had some other mentality or shape, maybe, but I don't want my goalkeeper doing that. I mean, even though it's David De Gea and he is one of the best in the world, if not the best, I don't think he's the best. Maybe Manuel Neuer is better. Most probably is better. But if you look at his ability, he's got 14 first touch. His kicking is pretty good. His throwing sucks. But he doesn't have very good vision, and I don't know how much that helps a goalkeeper in these sort of counter-attacking passes. His passing is only 12 as well. I don't think he's very much suitable for that, and so you have to factor that in. So maybe sweeper keeper could work. The way I look at it is, sweeper keeper comes off his line to deal with through balls. When are you going to get through balls? You're going to get through balls mostly when you play a high defensive line. They're going to be balls over the top. You need your keeper to come out and command his area and stop the attacker getting the ball before he has to be one-on-one with him. That's what a sweeper keeper does. And then they might come out of the area more, because they need to basically, when you have playing attacking football, your high defensive line, you've got so much more space behind your defensive line, which your goalkeeper needs to be able to come out and defend that where your defensive line can't. So you need your sweeper to come out then. But when you're playing counter-attacking football, this isn't the truth. Your goalkeeper doesn't need to do that. Your defenders are pretty much stuck on the edge of the 18-yard box or inside the 18-yard box. There isn't a lot of room for sweeping up through balls or through balls to be played, and any team that tries that isn't going to do very well, especially when you've got the likes of Chris Smalling in your team, who's absolutely quality. And fun fact, I used to go to school with him. He was in the year below me at Chatham Grammar School for Boys. So let's look at the role. So we need to change this to goalkeeper defend. And we'll maybe look at his instructions here. I think this really comes down to your team and what sort of players you've got up front. Now, we've got fast players up front. They haven't got very good heading ability. So when you're hoofing it up to them, the chances are you're going to lose possession, and that's not great. Over opposition defense, that's a good, possibly a good tactic, but I've yet to see it ever work, except for rare occasions. I think the safest option for us is to go distribute to the fullbacks, so that we can build up a attack quickly from that area. Because we want the goalkeeper to be able to distribute the ball quickly, so we're going to distribute quickly to instigate counter-attacks, and we want to start from the back so that just as the opposition has failed in their attack, we begin to transition. The fullbacks need to be able to receive the ball and then kick it forwards towards the midfielders or even the attackers down the channels. So that's really important. So we're going to have him distribute quickly and to fullbacks. If we were playing attacking football, we might do something else. We might hoof it up to our target man, because when you play attacking football, you should use a target man or a centre forward that can support and hold up the ball. You can head the ball. He doesn't have to have the target man role, but that's generally when you use a target man for attacking football, because it's all about getting the ball forward very quickly, and a lot of that means a ball in the air. But we're not going to use a target man, so we're using fast players, so we're not going to do that. So we're going to have him distribute short to the fullbacks, and we're going to have him distribute quickly. So hopefully we'll see some good counter-attacking play starting from there, and that the goalkeeper is very important. in this. Distribution counts for a lot in a game of football for a goalkeeper, and it's probably underrated as part of a goalkeeper's game by most people. So we've got that part right. Next, we want to look at the centre-back pairing. Now, normally when you don't play a defensive midfielder, you want one of your centre-backs to generally be a stopper and another one to be a coverer. That's if you've got the right players. Generally, you don't, especially when you're not playing the Premier League or the upper echelons. And you also have to be aware of what the opposition attack is like, their formation. So it's not a very good idea to have cover and stopper when you're facing two up front and an attacking midfielder. It's just not, because your centre back will leave his position, and then the attacking midfielder will play it to the free striker. So that's not good. So the safest option is always just defend. Now, do you want to play with central defender, ball playing defender, or limit defender? That's probably the more appropriate question. So you just have to read through these roles and see what they say. The way I look at it is a limited defender doesn't give a shit about his how he's playing the ball at all. He just wants to get rid of it as soon as possible, get away from his goal, let the other parts of the team take care of the rest. And what that usually results in is losing the ball and just gifting possession, basically. When you're playing counter-attacking football, that is generally what is going to happen. You're going to be giving the ball to the opposition. So it's not a matter of possession. Counter-attacking football isn't about possession at all. It's about what you do with your possession. And so limited defender could well be the optimal choice for a counter-attacking team. And even more importantly, it's more appropriate for when you're using a shape which has your defenders defend, your attackers attack, and your midfielders support and transition. And that would be structured or highly structured. But if we're looking at structured or highly structured, the choice basically the choice is: do we want our defenders to do a little bit of passing in the midfield and helping support the midfield transition? Do we want our midfielders to both defend, transition, and attack? Or do we want them to just transition and defend? Maybe, depending on what their role is, what their duty is. Do we want them to behave exactly according to their duty, or do we want them to mostly behave according to their duty? And mostly would be structured, and exactly would be highly structured. I think in this case we want structured. If you look at what it says there, the fullbacks are more responsible. Fullbacks and defensive midfielders are responsible for both defensive and transition phases. And what did we do with the goalkeeper? We had him distribute to the fullbacks. So that we already know that our fullbacks are going to be part of the transition. That's important. So we've already set up for that. The wingers and more attacking midfielders are responsible for both transition and attacking phases. So that means that our wingers are going to help transition, dribble the ball, and attack. Our central midfielders say, I'm not going to use this setup here at all, but what it's saying there is that a centre mid with an attack duty will basically he'll help transition and you'll get forward, which is what you want. You definitely want that in an attacking midfielder when you're playing a counter-attacking tactic, because you need someone to get in on the end of the crosses and to support the centre forward. And you want basically a runner from midfield to make sure your attack isn't one-dimensional. So we want that. So that sounds good. And I think I glossed over the defend part for the central midfielder. So he'll be responsible for transitioning, but he'll also muck in with the defence. And the support duty midfielder will basically do a bit of everything. And it just depends on what kind of role you choose for him. So I think we're going to go structured. And then we'll go back to discussion of the roles, yeah? We were talking about central defenders. So if you look at what the difference between central defender and limited defender is, it's basically about mentals. Chris Smalling is very good. He's not the best in the world, but he's very good. And he's got great jumping, great heading, great good marking, great tackling, great positioning, and he's got very good mental reading of the game, anticipation, very important for reading the game, so that he can tackle and make those challenges before the opposition attackers have time to take shots and make runs. So he needs to be able to perceive the things before they happen, which is what anticipation is. Concentration's good as well. Composure's a little bit low, decision's a bit low, but we'll deal. 13's okay. Determination, not the greatest, but he has very good attributes for a central defender role. Now, if we compare that with the limited defender, all it means is that it's just taking away the onus on the reading of the game. Of course, I think these will still be important for a limited defender, and it will even just help them. But I think that goes to show, like, he is just as suitable as limited defender as he is for central defender, and it really comes down to what do you want him to do in the game. And we can test these out, how we get on with central defender and limit defender, depending on how it affects the game, because we're going to play against PSG, remember. So we're going to go with using our direction from our shape. The defenders responsible for the defending. We're going to go with the limited defender role, because that makes him focus more on what he needs to be doing, which is defend, rather than just helping as well the transition and so forth. But the question is, will that really negatively affect our transitions? Will the ball just get blasted and then we won't be able to build counterattacks? Remains to be seen. But we can see there that Chris Smalling has 8 passing, so he's not great. First touch 11. He's not the best on the ball. His vision isn't very good. I mean, not a lot of defenders' vision is good, but he isn't a creative sort of or adept sort of centre back that can play with the ball at all. Really, he's just a solid get it, lump it, and defend guy. That's what you want for the most part in a defender. As long as they can do that, then you're happy. Phil Jones, back from injury, is my other choice. I was playing Rojo, but I'm going to go with Phil Jones, even though his jumping reach is 12 and it's not ideal. And he's better with the ball at his feet. And I don't know. The question is, should I have a mixture of roles? Should I have a central defender and a limited defender? I don't know how that changes how that affects the distribution, but he's more suited to a central defender. But we're going to go with limited defender, just so that he sticks to his role, which is so that we don't have Phil Jones or Chris Smalling out of position. It just accords really well with the team shape. It's just suitable for the team shape, and you want to fit your roles around your team shape and your mentality, so that everything makes sense. It's no good just making roles because the role sounds good on its own. Otherwise, I just have 3 roaming playmakers in the middle because, well, that sounds good. Lots of creativity, right? That's not how it works. So we're going for limit defender in the center, and we can play with that. But I think the consensus here is the monopolistic consensus is that limit defender is the better option, but we can change to central defender if we need to, if it doesn't go quite well. On the fullbacks, I think this is even more important actually to the tactic, because when you're playing counter-attacking football, your defenders are supposed to defend first and foremost. They're not getting forward as much. And think about every transition you've seen in a counter-attacking football game. Well, say for example Chelsea, Jose Mourinho's Chelsea. You don't see. Although you do see what's his name, Ivanovic and Azpilicueta get forward. You don't see them when they're doing their counter-attacking play. You don't see them get forward. They hold back. They support the midfield, but they don't go further than that, because it's the job of Hazard and Willian, or whoever the right winger might be, to do the dribbling, the running. It's their job. So you can see that Jose Mourinho, his side there with Chelsea is just a perfect example of how to do counter-attacking football. And you don't have a fullback on complete win-back attack, yeah, because that's just not suitable, especially when you've got 2 perfectly good players up here doing that attacking role already. The time you want to use overlaps is when you're playing attacking football, because it's about stretching the opposition. It's about getting your wide players support so they can lay it off, and then there can be more crosses into the box, and there can be room for cutbacks as well. So like Valencia comes up with Darmian. Valencia goes to cross it, but he can't because there's a defender stopping him. So then Darmian's come up and overlapped, and he's unmarked, and that's when Valencia lays it off, and then Darmian delivers it first time into the box. See, that's when you use overlaps. So you don't use it when you're countering. So the question is, what should we use instead? So this wing back thing is not right. It might be, but you have to look at the description of the roles. If we were going, if we were trying to be extremely careful we'd go with limited fullback. But we need to be able to have our wide players get the support they need if the counter-attack doesn't come to anything. They need to be able to lay it off and ensure that we don't lose possession or momentum, because the ball could be, Valencia could get into some sort of cul-de-sac and then he needs someone to lay it off to. Mata's already surged into the box in this particular tactic. So where's he going to play it to? He's got Martial over there, but he's facing defenders, so he's not going to be able to do it there. So he's have to go back to the Schneiderlin. It's a long way there. You need a fullback to support. So fullback support seems about right. The question is, do we really need him on a support role, or not? Do we want him on a defend role? Because if you look at the overall description, it's talking about traditional defensive duties, overlapping runs. We don't want overlapping runs generally. But we do want to support the forward play and help attacks overload the final third. So that basically more or less confirms what I was saying before about overlaps. It's about overloading the final third. We're not trying to overload the final third from using our fullbacks. We're trying to overload them using our midfielders and our wide attackers and our man up front as well. So I'm not so sure. I'm going to put him on defend, and and then the question is, do I want to use Shaw as a wing back instead? I'm not so sure. Sure. We're going to put him on defend. Although that might change depending on how that looks and how that sets up. I'm not so sure about this fullback setup, but I'm much more confident in talking about these three players and these three players. In midfield, we're going to have this. We're using this formation, by the way. I'm not changing the formation. And my players are familiar with the formation, so accomplished. So we talk about the centre midfield. You definitely need a player on defend duty, like always. And the reason for that is you need someone to do the dirty work in front of your defensive line. Say you've got you're playing your counter-attacking football. You've got the opposition in your half. They're going to have all these fancy footwork attacking midfielders. You need someone in there to do the dirty work to stop them getting penetrating your defensive line. You need someone there to do the tackles, to mop up, and so you need someone there with a defend duty. Question is it ideal to have him up here, higher up the pitch than down here? Maybe not. Maybe it's actually better to have a triangular three. And is it best to have him to the left here when he may be probably better off in the centre? So let's think about this. I think he would be better in the centre, and then you've got players on support either side. So we're going to make so we're going to have a defend duty in the centre, but we don't know what the role is going to be. I think this centre midfield defend role is probably the best one, and we'll look at why. He needs a tactical awareness and a technical ability to support both defensive and attacking play as needed. So we need him to defend, but he can also help transition. So it's a toss up between central midfield defend or deep lying playmaker defend. Um,